Hello everyone, my name is Leaf and welcome to my YouTube channel. And in today's video, I'll be taking my original characters and drawing them a little bit differently. I've been seeing that challenge going around Instagram lately where you draw your character as normal, gender bent, and as a child. And I've never done this to my characters before, so I really wanted to try it out. So, without further ado, let's get drawing. The first character I will be drawing in today's video is Lauren, because she is the main character of my story. And before I draw any of the gender bent or child versions, I will be drawing their normal versions in case any of you don't know what they normally look like. Okay, while I draw the normal version of Lauren, I'll give you a brief overview of her character in case you are a first-time viewer of this channel, and because I will take any opportunity I can to talk about my characters. So, like I said earlier, Lauren is the main character of my story. She has a pretty cold personality and can be a little bit hard to get along with. She doesn't really like to be around a lot of people and she can come off very cold, but she does really care about her goals in life and she would absolutely give her life to protect the people closest to her. But she probably wouldn't let them know that. Unlike most of my other characters, Lauren doesn't have any magic that she uses. Instead, she just fights with her sword. This is primarily because she grew up in a place called Navita where magic was outlawed for the common person and only the people trusted by the king were allowed to use magic. Lauren's primary motivation throughout the story is to hunt down and kill a woman named Eden because Eden was able to enslave Lauren's god and use that magic to try and corrupt the world. It's not the most creative fantasy story out there, but hey, I never said I was a writer. But now that you have a little bit of an idea of how Lauren is as a character, I'll just mention a couple key things about her character design. When I design characters, I really like to give them a signature color, and Lauren's signature color is purple. I just think this color really fits her, and if you've been on this channel long enough, you know I've had Lauren for a very long time, and when I first made her, when I was just a little kid, she had a purple hoodie, so I've just always associated the color purple with Lauren. And so throughout the years, I always kept that her main color in her design. I also like to give Lauren just this basic knight aesthetic. Since she is the main character, I like to keep her design a little bit more generic than the others, if that makes any sense. She looks a lot more like a typical fantasy adventurer, and I really like that for her. Probably my favorite part of her design is drawing her little coat. I love drawing the quilted texture, and it's just a really fun shape. But now that we've drawn her normal version, it is time to draw her gender bent version. I'm just gonna tell you guys right now, this is not gonna be the most interesting gender bend in this whole video. I feel like Lauren's design is already it's not too feminine, so when changing her to being a man, I didn't have to change too many elements of her design, but I still wanted to change enough for it to look different. And one of the things I decided to do, instead of her sword being on her hip, I changed her sword to be on his back. There was literally no reason for me to do that. I was just trying to find things to change because honestly her design, I probably could have just left it the same. Some other things I ended up changing were I tried to make her generally wider and I tried to make her face more sharp. That's just how I draw men compared to women in my style, so I wanted to make her have a little bit more manly proportions. And the biggest change between her female and male design is her hair, and I struggled so much with his hair in this drawing because I don't know what it is, but trying to draw male hairstyles is so much harder than drawing woman hairstyles. But I wanted to give Lauren a shorter haircut because I felt like if she were a man, the last thing she would want to do is take care of her hair. And Lauren is actually an ex-soldier, so I'd imagine that male Lauren probably had some sort of short haircut already from being a soldier, and he just kept that haircut. I was also debating changing his hair color, but blue is just such an iconic trait for Lauren, so I decided to just keep the blue anyway. I think overall the haircut I settled for in the end was okay. I think I still could find one that suits him a little bit better, but I tried my best and I think it turned out okay. Some other changes I made were I shortened his tunic hem and made it more straight instead of Lauren's normal, where hers is really flared and she doesn't have any sleeves on her tunic. I really like that for Lauren, but I didn't think it suited male Lauren very well. I tried my best to give him without the sleeves because I do like the contrast between her big blousey sleeves and her sleeveless coat. But I couldn't find a way to make that really work for my male Lauren. So I gave him sleeves, and I think that really works with straightening out the bottom of his tunic. I think they match pretty well. And I also liked that with shortening his tunic, I could have the chainmail sticking out of both of his sleeves and his tunic. But that's basically it for male Lauren. I think overall his design came out pretty good, and he does quite literally just look like male Lauren. Like, my biggest struggle throughout this drawing process was trying to make his face not literally just look like Lauren, but in the end I think I ended up with something pretty good. And now we're on to the child Lauren design, and unlike literally any of the rest of the characters, I had a very clear image of how I wanted Lauren to look when she was a little kid. I think that's mostly just because I have more of Lauren's backstory fully thought through, and some of my other characters, it's still like a little bit up in the air. But also, Lauren grew up in Navita, and that is by far the most developed region in my fantasy world. Like, it's not even close. Most of the other regions don't even have names. So I had a very good base to work off of for her child design. Lauren did not grow up in the most fortunate of circumstances. Her family was pretty poor, and Lauren's parents didn't have a lot of time to look after her. So I wanted her design to be a little bit more messy and a little bit more simple than some of my other characters. I'd imagine Lauren as a kid kept her hair pretty short so that it was a lot easier to take care of, and I don't think she or her parents brushed her hair very often, so I wanted to make it a little bit messy. When Lauren was little, I think she'd have a pretty different personality than how she ended up. Currently, she's pretty cold and she gets angry pretty easily, but I think as a kid, Lauren was a little bit more timid, and she really wanted to try and make her parents proud because she thought if she could, make them proud, that they would pay more attention to her. I also think Lauren as a kid really liked to just go exploring on her own, and she would just be one of those kids who would just like eat dirt and rocks and trip and fall and always get themselves hurt, but they would just have the most fun time doing that. So I decided to give her some dirt stains on her face and also a little bit of a sunburn. This design did not take me very long to draw, and I think it turned out super cute. Here are all three versions of Lauren together. I really like how all of these designs came out, and I find it really funny just how different Lauren looked as a child than how she does now. And I found all of these sketches a really good warm-up for the rest of my characters, so let's move on to the next character. And of course, the next character after Lauren has to be Hezi. Hezi is also from Navita, just like Lauren, and they both met while they were fleeing from Navita. Hezi travels with Lauren and the others and acts as a group healer because, unlike Lauren, Hezi does use magic, and it is both healing magic and he can grow plants. I draw Hezi just as much as I draw Lauren, but for some reason, every single time I draw him, I struggle with something. It used to be his face, like I could never get his face quite right, but lately, I think I've been getting a lot better, and I have actually been able to draw his face on the first try and liking how it looks. I think I'm starting to actually figure out how I like to draw him, so I didn't struggle with that this time around. However, I did struggle with his overall pose I'm trying not to just draw all of them in like their default poses. I'm trying to do something a little bit different for each of the characters this time around. And I was having so much trouble trying to figure out a pose for Hezi that wasn't just holding his spear like I normally do. And so I ended up with this pose where he was just holding his hands in front of him. And I think this pose looks all right, but I'm going to challenge you. After you watch this video, just really sit down and try to draw this hand pose for yourself, because it took me at least 5 tries. I don't know what it was, but hands are hard enough, but trying to make them like interact and touch each other is so hard, because it's like, what hand am I supposed to draw first and what hand am I supposed to draw second, you know, because they're like overlapping each other in a way that it is hard. It doesn't really make sense. I think it looks all right in the end, but it was tough. I think my overall favorite thing about Hezi's design is his color palette. I have always enjoyed Hezi's color palette. It's just so nice and warm. His colors consist mostly of reds and browns, and I just think it fits his character so well, because Hezi is a more upbeat, very kind character, and I think his color palette really suits his personality. I was so excited to draw Hezi for this challenge because his design might not look like it, but I knew it was going to change a lot between his child and genderbend versions. Since I have Navita developed a lot more than the other regions my characters come from, I knew there were going to be some cultural things that made Hezi's design change when he turned into a woman. So let's go look at Hezi's genderbend design. I had some decent ideas going into this design on what I wanted to change, but also the key things I wanted to keep the same. I didn't mention this earlier, but for all of the genderbend designs, I wanted to keep their height the same, and their overall color palette I wanted to keep the same, and I wanted to keep their personalities. Obviously, because I think these are all the key things for these characters, and if I changed any of them too drastically, then it wouldn't just be like a genderbend design, it would be like a completely different character. One of the things I knew for sure I wanted to change about Hezi's design was his hair. I immediately knew I was gonna give him a pretty long braid. I just think this fits him really well. It's a really sweet hairstyle, and if he were a woman, I know he would just grow his hair so long and always have it done up with some accessories. He just seems like that type of girl. I also knew I wanted to change his shawl, because I do not think this would be a very appropriate shawl to wear for a noble lady and Navita. So I changed it very slightly. I moved his like brooch into the center to kind of hold the two sides of the shawl together and have some of the fabric draping down, and that's where I added his little gold fringe detail. I don't know why, but this seemed a little bit more feminine in my opinion, and I like the way it looked with the rest of her design. I had Hezi's tunic kind of turn into this dress that she has tied up around her waist to have some of this bunching fabric, and that kind of shows more of her pants. I don't know if y'all know what Lauren's Navita design looks like, but I'd imagine Woman Hezekiah has a very similar pair of pants where it's like a wrap pair of pants, so it's pretty baggy and has these fabric panels that you like tie around your waist to close the pants off. So I'd imagine Woman Hezekiah would have those type of pants as well, and she has that longer tunic slash dress on as well that she has tied up to be bunched around her hip. I also gave Woman Hezekiah one of those veils that many people in Navita wear as kind of sun protection for their face and almost like sunglasses for the glare off the sand. I think almost everyone in Navita has a pair of these, but I think the woman would, when not using the sunglasses or when not using the veil, would have it around their head, almost like a headscarf. I just thought that was really cute, so I gave girl Hezekiah one of those, and I think it makes her hairstyle look even better. I also gave her just this little circlet around her forehead because Hezi already has a couple accessories, and I'd imagine Woman Hezekiah would have even more accessories. I think she would have a vast jewelry collection, that she just kind of pops out sometimes and changes up her jewelry. I also gave her the small detail that on her wrap pants, I added a little stitching pattern around some of the fabric panels, because in Hezi's normal design, he has those big cross stitches on the bottom of his pants that make them look a little bit more damaged. And I wanted girl Hezekiah to have that same kind of vibe, so I tried to make her pants look a little bit on the cheaper side, so I have those big stitching patterns. I also just really like adding stitches to my character designs. But now it is time to do Hezekiah's child design, and I thought going into this design that I had an idea of how I wanted him to look, but as I started actually drawing, I was starting to get less and less confident in that idea. So his design switched up a lot. I was also struggling with his overall proportions, especially in his face, because I do not draw children very often, so I am not the best at drawing them. I've been really wanting to get better at that because I do want to start making characters of all sorts of different ages, because right now it feels like all of my characters are the same age, and I just really want to branch out and grow as an artist. So that is one of the main reasons why I actually decided to do this challenge, was to help me practice drawing younger characters. I honestly think one thing that really helped me when drawing these younger characters was I've been getting really into Witch Hat Atelier recently. I started that anime after I had surgery on my foot because I was practically bedbound, like I was not able to walk on it, so I was just starting to watch some shows that I heard of that I was interested in, but I didn't really have time to start before. And let me just tell you, that is one of my favorite animes I have ever watched. I have only watched 4 of them in the past, so it doesn't really have much competition, but I've been really enjoying it, and most of the characters in that show are on the younger side, and so I've just been really trying to take some inspiration from that show in how they draw their younger characters. But for Hezi's clothing design, I kept it to a very similar look as his alternate Navita design. I mostly wanted to focus on contrasting Hezi's child design and Lauren's child design because I wanted to make Lauren's design look very basic and kind of plain, and I wanted Hezi's child design to look very expensive. I go a lot more into my design choices for Hezi specifically in this video, where I actually designed his Navita outfit. So if you want to learn a little bit more about him and Lauren, I recommend watching that video. But now that all of Hezi's designs are done, it is time to move on to the next character. And the next character up is Aurora, because I have a really bad habit of just drawing Hezi and Lauren and kind of neglecting my other 2 main characters. So I decided to do all 4 of them in this video. As far as Aurora's backstory goes, I don't have it quite as planned out as both Lauren and Hezi. There's a lot of things about her character that are still up in the air, but one thing I know is she does hold some position of power in her country, and a pretty powerful one at that. I'm having a hard time deciding between if she's the foreign relations minister or the princess that also acts as kind of that foreign relations official that goes out to the other countries and negotiates with them over certain things. I think that fits her character pretty well. Aurora is from one of the 2 kingdoms in my story that are in the clouds, and the people of those countries have electric magic. And what's really cool is because they have electric magic, there's a lot more steampunk elements to them because they have the ability to harness technology. My favorite part of Aurora's design is her robotic armor that she has on her arm, and she uses this armor to help direct lightning through a bow and arrow so that she can shoot lightning bolts like arrows. I think it's just a really unique aspect of her character, and it's pretty new as well. Like my other main characters, I've had Aurora for a very long time, but this design and silhouette was fairly recent. I think I made it in the past couple of years. I was just messing around one day and I came up with this armor piece for her shoulder, and I just really liked it, so I kept it. Aurora's main color palette consists of this dark bluish gray, this bright electric yellow and this copper color for the metallic parts of her design. These colors are very important to her and her position because as she is part of this kind of royal family, this very important family within her kingdom, this bright yellow color is to represent the bird that she rides, and this bird was considered by the family to be a gift from the god that they worship. Other than these colors though, I am having a very hard time trying to form a cultural identity for Aurora's kingdom. I've mentioned countless times in this video that Navita by far is the most developed region of my story, and I'm struggling with a lot of the other regions, especially Aurora's. I am still not quite sure how I overall want that region to look. So her design is kind of up in the air. I really like where it's at right now, but because I don't have any real basis for it, I don't know how much longer this design will survive. I really want to get in and start working on some of the other regions, but as of now, she kind of stands alone by herself. I don't even have many other characters in my head from this region, and because I don't really have a cultural basis for her design, when I had to gender bend it, kind of like Lauren's, I was struggling a lot to find things to make different because I didn't have a good base to work off of. But I started the same like I do with all of these gender bend designs, and I just go by starting to make the proportions like the other gender. So I'm going to be turning Aurora into a man, and one thing I really wanted to keep was her very small and slender frame. Aurora is the shortest of my main characters, and that is not going to change when she's a dude. I kept her design very similar to her normal design, so I didn't find it too hard to gender bend her, but there were two things that I was struggling with the absolute most on this drawing, and that was her main tunic and her hairstyle. Like I said earlier in this video, I am actually so bad at giving men hairstyles. Like, it is a miracle I have so many male characters. And the biggest thing was I couldn't decide between if I wanted Aurora to have short hair or long hair, and I ended up going with short hair, but I'm still really on the brink if I want her male design to have long hair, because I think that looks really good too. But I think maybe it was this pose or something, I couldn't really get it to work, so I settled on the short hair. But please let me know if you think she would look better with long hair. The other thing I changed was her tunic. I was considering either making it shorter, like almost just at the waist, or making it longer, like a lot longer, but I didn't feel like that silhouette matched this pose either, so I ended up making it just a bit longer, right above the knee, and I think this fits him pretty well, honestly. And with that extra room, I was able to put Aurora's little emblem on the coat itself, and I think that's pretty fitting for her design. So even though I struggled with her male design, I think I was able to get somewhere that I liked in the end. But now that we've drawn the male design, it is time to draw the child design. And Aurora, I think, out of all my characters, has probably changed the least since she was a kid. Aurora is a very happy and outgoing character, and I imagine she was the exact same way when she was a kid. And because she comes from such a powerful family, I knew her design was going to be super fun to draw, because I was able to do whatever I wanted with her outfit. One of the things I decided to do for Aurora's kid design was give her some pretty long hair, because currently Aurora has very short hair, and I think her parents would have loved to kind of use Aurora as a little dress-up doll when she was a kid, and I'm sure her mom loved to play with her very long, luscious hair, and I think that's just really cute. So I really like Aurora's long hair. She just looks so cute on her. As far as her clothing goes, I decided to give her a little dress with a shawl with the bird feathers. I think Aurora would probably have a shawl or a cloak like this throughout her life, because once again, it is kind of symbolic for her relationship between her and her bird. Her child design actually worked up super quickly, and even though I went into the design process not having a clue on how I wanted her to look as a kid, it actually was one of the designs I struggled on the least. I think it ended up super cute and she is just so adorable. I am so happy with how her design ended up looking. I'm hoping this little challenge will help me get a better grasp on Aurora's culture, because between the new male and child design, it's given me a little bit more of an idea on how I actually want these people to look and dress. And that's such a cool side effect of this challenge. You really do get to learn your OC's world just a little bit better. And here are all of Aurora's finished designs together. I really enjoyed working on these, and in the end I think they all turned out super cool. So let's move on to the final character in this video. Our final character in this video will be Shadow, of course. Out of all of my main characters, Shadow's design is by far the simplest. He literally just has a dress shirt, pants, and a cloak. But really, that's all he needs. Out of all of my main characters, Shadow is the quietest. He doesn't speak unless he absolutely has to, but even though he doesn't like to talk, he does like to be around other people, and Shadow has taken up the role as being the group's cook and the backup doctor just in case anything happens to Hezekiah. Shadow also plays guitar, and he likes to be able to communicate with the group that way since he doesn't really talk to them, but they do all enjoy his company. But now that you know a little bit about Shadow, it is that time, that secret time in every single video where I hide a little secret message to see who's really paying attention. And if you're hearing this message, leave a purple heart for Lauren if she's your favorite, a red heart for Hezi if he's your favorite, a yellow heart for Aurora if she's your favorite, or a blue heart for Shadow if he's your favorite. Also, tell me which one out of all these alternate designs is your favorite. I think for me, it has to be Child Aurora. I just think she's so cute. But please let me know who your favorite is in the comments. And while you're down there, feel free to like and subscribe. But only do it if you want to. Alright, now back to the drawing. Shadow's color palette consists of this nice blue with this accent color of red, and really the only other color in his design is this gray color. I think Shadow's color palette is honestly one of my favorites out of my characters. I just really like the contrast between the blue and the red. The red color is actually a pretty new thing in his design. He used to not have it, but I just really like the contrast it creates, and it kind of ties Hezi's redder color palette into the rest of the group as well, because before Shadow had the red, Hezekiah was the only character who had red in their design, and it was kind of jarring. Like, he kind of stood out a little bit too much out of the four, and Shadow having this red color ties them together and makes the whole group look a little bit more balanced. But that is Shadow's design practically done, and now it's time to gender bend him. And out of all of my characters, this was probably the easiest gender bend. Shadow's design is already kind of androgynous. Like, a lot of people already think he's a girl, so I just kind of amplified his feminine features. The one biggest change between his normal design and his female design is I gave her this big puffy dress, because one thing Shadow really loves is to be comfortable, and what is more comfortable than a really big flowy dress? I just think it looks really cute, and I love the way it looks with the jacket on top. I just think it is so cute. And I decided to give Shadow some pretty long hair. I think he'd grow it out because Shadow has really pretty curly hair, and I don't think she would take too much care of her hair. I think it would become over the travels that she does with the rest of the group, just really frizzy and kind of messy, but I just think that is so adorable. And I was trying to debate whether or not I was going to give her pants, but I did decide to give her pants because I think the dress with these pants and Shadow's normal boots would just look pretty good together, so I kept the pants. And also, like, she's gonna be adventuring. She's gonna be like walking through forest and climbing mountains, and I can't imagine doing that with your legs bare. Like, you'd get so dirty, and I'm sure that would scratch your legs at some point. So she kept her pants. I also changed her glove color from black to white because with her whole dress being white, it became more of a focal color and the gray became less of a prominent color in the design. So I changed the gloves to be white as well. I think they'd be some really pretty gloves that like go up to her elbows instead of the normal wrist gloves that Shadow's wearing. But now it is time for the child design, and by far out of all of my characters, Shadow definitely changed the most since he was a little boy. And I think that's kind of sad. I struggled a lot with his facial expression because I wanted him to be really happy, but I also kind of wanted his eyes to be open to show his eye color. But I ended up making them closed because he just looks so joyous with his eyes closed with that big smile on his face. I figured Shadow probably grew up somewhere pretty cold, like in a remote village. So I definitely wanted him to have more of a warm design. And that also goes back to Shadow just always loving to be in a lot of clothing that he can kind of hide himself in. The most prominent piece of Child Shadow's design is this giant scarf I gave him around his neck. I just think it's adorable, and that was kind of my philosophy for all these kid designs, was just to make them as cute as possible, because I mean, just look at them, they're so cute. I love it. In Shadow's child design, his prominent color went from blue to this brown. I don't imagine Shadow would have a cloak like he does now when he was a kid. I didn't want these child designs to look too close to their adult designs because obviously we grow and change a lot over the years, and I don't want to get stuck in a trap of just making these kid designs look like a mini version of their regular selves. Another huge change for this child design is that he has white hair, and that is because Shadow normally has white hair. He actually dyes it black for the same reason Lauren dyes her hair blue. But here are all of Shadow's finished designs together. I think they look so cute, and like I said, I just love his color palette, and with the extra added brown from the child design, all of these designs just look so good next to each other, and I freaking love little Shadow. He is so cute, and I just love him so much. He's adorable. But with that, everyone, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'm incredibly sorry for its delayed release. I had a lot going on this week with school starting soon and all. I'm deeply depressed about that, by the way. Do not want to go back to school, but it is what it is. Gotta get an education so I have a future, I guess. But sorry this video is a little bit late. I promise the next one might not be late, but I would highly recommend you guys try this challenge for yourself. I found it super fun and also useful for thinking a little bit more deeply about my characters. So I would definitely try it for yourselves, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.